Well, welcome back, and we're joined by Andy McGregor, who's Jisc's Deputy Chief Innovation Officer. Welcome, Andy. I got that right, didn't I?
You did. It is a mouthful.
I nearly got that one wrong.
There's such a Wild West about it, which I always enjoy.
And we're standing here up in the balcony in Hall 3. And so, Andy, what are you looking forward to most at a Digifest this year? All of it, of course, but there must be something in particular.
Yeah, I think this is a particularly exciting Digifest this year. There's lots of things to pick out. I think there's two things which I'm possibly most excited about. One is the learning analytics stream of content. We've been talking about learning analytics for a while now, but I think this year really sees the flowering of our work. You can really start to see some tangible tools which you can use and how to make learning analytics real in your institution, actually make a real difference for students. We've got the student app, which we're demonstrating, called Study Gold, which I think is well worth a look. As well as learning analytics, the other thing I'm excited about is the edtech startups who are here to show us their product and ask Digifest people to vote on which they think is best.
Yes, well, because that's here this evening, isn't it? I think.
I think someone is comparing.
I think somebody might be introducing it. I think it might be me. But you mentioned the app. Is that live yet, or is that just about to go live?
It's being used in some pilot institutions at the moment. People can see a demo of it. It is on the App Store and the iOS Store, the Google Play Store and the iOS Store. But you can only really use it if your institution's taking our learning analytics solution. So you can have a look at it, look at the logo, but you can't actually play with it until you're using it in your institution.
You tease.
So you said your deputy sheriff role.
Deputy sheriff, absolutely.
There's also
Keeping the West clean.
another part to your role as Deputy Chief Innovation Officer. Why does Jisc invest in you, in what you do?
Well, in me, I'm not entirely sure. That's one of Jisc's more questionable decisions. But in R&D, I think it is really important. Jisc is a technology organisation. Yeah. We deliver a set of services to our members. Our members' needs are constantly evolving. Technology for education is constantly evolving. It's moving at a frightening rate. If Jisc services don't continue to evolve, if Jisc can't look at the technologies and see which is the most productive and make recommendations on that, if we can't develop new services to address upcoming emerging problems and to take advantage of new technology, then members will not get the best out of Jisc. So for Jisc, it's vitally important. For members, it's really important because they are bombarded on all sides by new forms of technology. There is too much to choose.
Sure, and how do we choose? How do we make those choices?
Well, I think the thing I always get reminded of by everyone I work with is technology is almost the least important part of that decision, the technology itself. Yeah. Fundamentally, we've got to think about the problems and what it offers to students and what it offers to teachers and staff. And I think if we're guided by those problems, then the technology will follow.
Will flow. Yeah. So we did some discussions lately with over 600 contributors to co-design. So do you want to talk a little bit about what the next kind of challenges are that we're going to invest in and explore in?
Sure. So over the last few months, we've been asking Jisc members what problems they want to address, what technologies they're interested in, and we came out of that with 5 ideas. The first one was next generation learning environments, exploring what comes next after the VLE, how the VLE can develop. The intelligent campus, what does Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robots, what kind of impact will that have on the service that people get on the campus and on the digital side of the campus?
Can't help looking excited about that.
I know, robots and AI, that's the good stuff. Researcher skills, vitally important to investigate that. Next generation research environments, what tools do researchers need to use their job? And the final one, really important from government strategy and so on, is digital apprentice.
Yeah.
Huge amounts of apprentices coming on. There is a need for tools to manage that, and we're going to help universities build those tools. And colleges, of course.
Yeah, sounds excellent. Really fascinating and really important as well that all of those opportunities are really grounded in things that are of particular interest to our members at the moment. So
yeah, as I say, it has to come from our point of view and just point of view, it has to come members first, and it has to come problems first. What problems do you need to solve? Because if we get led by the technology, we'll just get distracted by all the widgets, the robots, the
exciting
shiny stuff. Which, I have to be constantly reminded not to run after like a child chasing butterflies.
So how do we make sure that kind of across the education space, edtech is used to its best advantage? So when you get away from the fun that you're clearly having. Yeah. So how do you make sure this stuff really pays back to education?
I think there's a number of different ways we can do that. I think fundamentally we have to look at the evidence of what's working. We have to promote that, and there's certainly something we'll be doing in Jisc around that. But edtech for me at the moment, the thing I'm most interested in edtech is the startup scene. Edtech is, while it can be used as a term to describe all technology to do with education, there is a particular use of the term in the startup arena, and there's a lot of investment. $2 billion were invested in edtech startups last year. That continues an upward trend since 2010. And I think that those startups represent both a threat and a huge opportunity to universities and colleges. I think we ignore them at our peril. You know, there's so many examples of ignoring technologies from an industry and then they're coming along to disrupt you. There's too many to talk about. And I think we are at risk of doing that if we ignore those startups coming from that edtech scene. So at the moment, the thing I'm really excited about, really interested about, is how we work with those edtech startups in an early stage, how we get to work with them early, to shape them, to steer them, to ensure that what they produce works for universities and colleges, works for students, works for staff, as well as produces them a sustainable business model that they can go on and make their Mark Zuckerberg billions on. I think working with them early is the key, and that's something I think Jisc can help with. Getting in there, getting the relationships with these companies early, representing our members' interests and steering these companies towards a future which works for both them and for us.
Paul Feldman, just downstairs in the stakeholder forum, has just announced a strategic partnership between Jisc and edtech UK. So I don't think it's a secret anymore, but so that's kind of out there. So too late. We've announced it. So what are your hopes for that kind of relationship? What do you think that that's going to bring about?
Well, edtech UK are a fantastic body, and we're really pleased that we've got the strategic partnership with them. Over the last few years, they've made a great progress about getting edtech recognised at the highest levels in government, making contacts with the edtech arena, and I think that Jisc has the contacts with universities, edtech with government and with startups. In the area of startups, I think together we are a match made in heaven. We can really cover the spectrum, and together we can ensure that edtech isn't something that comes along and disrupts universities and colleges. It's something that we actually all work on together for mutual benefit. I think that partnership is very exciting.
No pressure then.
No pressure.
Excellent. Andy, thanks so much for joining us. And you've done the tubes, don't forget the hashtag so you can join the conversations. So it's hashtag Digifest17. Please use that. Send your thoughts in, talk back to us. And please make sure that you do browse the agenda for the online programme for the rest of today and tomorrow, and choose the bits that are most interesting to you, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, bye.
Bye.